specially designed orthopedic chair that my good friend Braden has marked out for me here at The Answer, Omaha's Conservative Talk, theanswer.com, theansweromaha.com, better get it right, the ClintBellowsShow.com is our website, and we're available everywhere. We'll talk more about that if you want to call us at any point. 402-498-KOTK, 402-498-KOTK, 402-498-5685. There, I got it all done. Hey, it isn't often you get to hear two failed presidents speak at the same event. We had that happen today in Dallas, Texas, two of the worst in American history. I think the 44th best, which is the current clown, who you will not hear me. We're not playing any more of his stuff on this show. We're not wasting any more time on this guy for the next 8 months until he's out of there. I mean, I'm just tired of it. I don't care what he has to say. He's just a human boombox. He's what the Bible would call an empty vessel. So we're going to put on probably the second worst or third worst president. I got to put Carter in there somewhere. I'm going to call Carter 43, and I'm going to call Bush 43 the 42nd worst president. Right up there with Millard Fillmore and James Buchanan. What did W have to say today?
Thanks, Senator. I, too, really pleased that President Obama and Mrs. Obama have come down to Dallas. I also want to welcome Vice President Mrs. Biden.
Why?
Mr. Mayor, Chief Brown, elected officials, members of the law enforcement community. Today, the nation grieves, but those of us who love Dallas and call it home have had 5 deaths in the family. Laura and I see members of law enforcement every day.
I'll bet you do.
We count them as our friends. And we know, like for every other American, that their courage is our protection and shield. We're proud of the men we mourn and the community that has rallied to honor them and support the wounded. Our mayor and police chief and our police department have been mighty inspirations for the rest of the nation. These slain officers were the best among us. Lauren Ahrens,
easily the best there today.
Beloved husband to Detective Katrina Ahrens and father of 2. Michael Kroll, caring son, brother, uncle, nephew, and friend. Michael Smith, U.S. Army veteran, devoted husband and father of 2. Brent Thompson, Marine Corps vet, recently married. Patrick Zamaripa, U.S. Navy Reserve combat veteran, proud father, and loyal Texas Rangers fan. With their deaths, we have lost so much. We are grief-stricken, heartbroken, and forever grateful. Every officer has accepted a calling that sets them apart. Most of us imagine if the moment called for that we would risk our lives to protect a spouse or a child. Those wearing the uniform assume that risk for the safety of strangers. They and their families share the unspoken knowledge that each new day can bring new dangers. But none of us were prepared or could be prepared for an ambush by hatred and malice. The shock of this evil still has not faded. At times, it seems like the forces pulling us apart are stronger than the forces binding us together. Argument turns too easily into animosity. Disagreement escalates too quickly into dehumanization. Too often we judge other groups by their worst examples, while judging ourselves by our best intentions. And this is...
Let me interject here, and I have to tell you that as bad as he was a freaking rocket scientist compared to the imbecile we've got in there now. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I hold the current office holder in complete contempt. A major opportunity in this country to bring races together with the first supposedly African-American president, or Indonesian or Hawaiian or Chicagoan or whatever the heck the guy was missed, and it was missed by him, okay? And instead we find ourselves 7.5 years later into his administration with probably the most racially divided America in well over 50 years, possibly since Reconstruction days. I happened to see a panel of people on television on one of the cable news shows. One of the cable commentators gathered about 25 people, blacks, whites, law enforcement, liberals, conservatives, constitutional scholars, sociologists, just people on all sides of this issue. They only had one thing to say that was in common, and that is this is a mess and it's gotten worse. And you know what? If this guy's going to stand up and tell us what a great guy he is all the time, take the heat. You're a failure on this one. We call him Barack's bucket list. We'll be doing another one on Thursday. There are 25 of his massive catastrophic failures and bad things that he has brought the American people in these 7.5 years. We'll have a lot to say on Thursday about the next item on the bucket list. I'm not going to waste any more time on that guy. George W. Bush was also a failed president, and our Iraq policy shows that. And what's going on in the Middle East is a direct consequence to two things, and Osama bin Laden isn't one of them. The two things are George W. Bush and the current office holder. That is a study in about 15.5 years of total failure that has destabilized that critical part of the world, and the blame falls strictly and solely on those two clowns, okay? So we had them both in Dallas today talking about 5 men who were better than either one of them. And I knew Bush's father a little bit, did some work around that vice presidency and presidency. You know, it's almost 30 years ago now. Part of it's more than 30 years when I was an advanced guy. I'm embarrassed for what he did in office. And his failure was a direct causal link to the election of Barack Hussein Obama. And I don't know, folks, if you want to argue with me, if you take a different view, I wish you'd call. We call this Omaha's Conservative Talk. It is the Answer 94.5, 1420 a.m. It's an all-star lineup on every day. We'll talk more about that. But you heard the fellow who precedes me every day on the air, Michael Medved, who I've respected for many, 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 many years. He is our liberal conservative in sheep's clothing. He got up and said what a great speech Obama had given today. A number of his listeners, you may have heard the show, called to disagree with him. I'm one of them. It was just one more spout off of an empty vessel. One more written speech delivered in Hitler-esque cadence with very little inspiration, very little call to anything other than racism and the fact we need systemic changes in law enforcement. The truth of the matter is there aren't any racial differences in cop shootings in this country. None. None. We're going to get into that. That's been studied extensively. We told you yesterday that Mr. Obama's hometown of Chicago, what have there been, Braden? 1,500 shootings this year, 253 black deaths. Of the 253, 3 were committed by police officers. 2 of the police officers that I finally heard on were black officers shooting blacks, okay? So one white cop has shot a black person in a gang-related incident in Murder City, also known as Barack Obama, USA, where the dead fish, Rahm Emanuel, who used to be Barack's chief of staff, forgive me for mentioning that word so many times, he has been the mayor for the last 6 years. What a great job he's doing. So I have no patience for our, whatever it is he is, he's your president, he ain't mine, okay, for him being in Dallas today and him getting up and saying, his little political comments that serve him and his liberal left-wing communist agenda, and that's what it is. I'm not afraid of one of you libs calling me and taking me on and saying you're a right-winger, you're intolerant, you're ignorant, you're narrow, call me whatever you want. I would love that. I know you won't do it. You don't have the pair to do it. You and I both know it. Call me and prove me wrong. 402-498-5685. The Dallas police chief is the hero in that room today. Chief Brown said, we'll put you in the neighborhood and we'll help you resolve some of the problems you're protesting about. Audio of the chief thanking God for getting him through this period of time. A look at some who died. And by the way, George W. Bush did a good job of talking about those 5 officers. I think either 2 or possibly 3 of them served in Iraq with distinction. They served in a war zone only to be called back here to be killed on the streets of their hometown, doing their civic and professional duty. I don't know. A man was arrested for posting "All lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Kill all white cops." That came out in the Detroit News. Hey, we're on our way to progress on that one, aren't we? The Time's 417. We're going to be talking about this a little bit later in the show with both Lowell Ponte, Luke Adler, and John McTiernan. I brought on a variety of experts over the next hour and a half to address this from different angles. But right now, we're going to go to a commercial break. When we get back, we're going to talk about some local stories that I find sad, very sad and tragic in one case. We'll be back to talk about those. They all relate to Omaha citizens and great guys. Back in a moment.
Clint Bellows, brought to you in part by Norm's Door Service.
It's an emotional time when a family realizes that loved ones can't stay at home anymore. They need to find a place that feels like home, and the care is the kind of care that the family themselves would give. Via Christi is that place. I'm Teresa, Director of Nursing at Via Christi. We offer assisted living for seniors needing extra help, as well as customized care with special memory units for those with dementia and Alzheimer's. From the daily Catholic Mass, meals, activities, and health care, we at Via Christi care for your loved ones like we would care for our own. Visit viachristi.com to learn more.
Hey, Christy, what are you doing here?
Making money with Selfie Station.
What's Selfie Station?
It's right over there.
You mean that awesome portable touchscreen photo booth that we've been taking selfies with all night? That's your business? Oh, it's so much fun. And the pictures are such a great memory.
Everybody loves Selfie Station. I'm having more fun and making more money than I ever have.
You know, this would be perfect for my brother's wedding.
Call me soon, because I book up fast.
Do you want to own a business that's fun, that everybody loves? Right now, Selfie Station is offering a sweet deal to get you started. For a super low investment, you can be up and running in just 30 days. Weddings, corporate functions, proms, club events, holiday parties. Be the first in your area. You won't believe how much people will pay to make your business the life of their party. And right now, Selfie Station sweetens the deal even more with a $500 discount off the professional package. That's right, for a limited time, you can save even more.
Just go to selfiestationradio.com and enter promo code 77. That's selfiestationradio.com, promo code 77.
Are you tired of staring at that outdated kitchen countertop? What about that boring and dull bathroom floor? Are you frustrated that you just don't have time to do anything about it? There's a simple and easy solution. It's McKean's Floor to Ceiling at 108th and Harrison.
Hi, this is Becky McKean of McKean's Floor to Ceiling. If you have an outdated kitchen or bathroom, I would love to show you ideas that can transform it into a room of beauty. Do you have old matted down carpet and flooring that makes you cringe? I would love to show you ideas that stretch from floor to ceiling.
McKean's Floor to Ceiling at 108th and Harrison has been owned and operated by the McKean family for 50 years. All work is performed by McKean employees, not subcontractors, assuring you the finest high-quality workmanship. Are you thinking about a small or large kitchen or bathroom remodel? You need to call Becky McKean of McKean's Floor to Ceiling at 108th and Harrison. McKean's Floor to Ceiling, 108th and Harrison.
The Clint Bellows Show, 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
Beat the drum and hold the phone. The sun came out today. Good morning again, there's new grass on the beach. Just around the bird, I'm headed for home. It's a brown-eyed there's a man, anyone can understand the way I feel. Oh, flamenco, I'm ready to play today. Flamenco, I'm ready to play today. Look at me, I can be
one of the best I ever saw at the position. Really my last tie to the University of Nebraska at Omaha was severed yesterday by those geniuses in the administration over there at West Dodge High. And I don't know what to think because I've met Trev Albert a couple of times. I liked him. I've been obviously got to be impressed with his history as a Husker and, you know, done a lot of things well. But I'm not so sure about what's going on at UNO right now because I'm talking about the firing yesterday of Bobby Harold, who is, he and I go all the way back to when we were in school together back there in the 70s. Bobby Harold is one of the finest men you'll ever meet. Class guy, great athlete, a fine center fielder, if my memory is correct. I think he played some first base. He could play anywhere, okay? Hit for power, run, good throwing arm, a lot of range in the outfield, great player. Played minor league baseball. I don't know if he ever got to the bigs. That's a tough one to do. But he coached the UNO Mavericks for 17 years, and he holds every coaching record at UNO. And, you know, he has a son coming up who is going to be playing for him on the UNO baseball team, I think coming up next year, I believe. And so in the no good deed should go unpunished department of our show, we have a caller. Henry, you are close to the situation. What happened out there?
Well, Clint, thanks for taking my call. By the way, his son Riley just finished his freshman year playing for Dad, so you know that's a milestone. I think every dad hopes to have, maybe to coach their sons or see their sons get to that point, and you know, I'm sure that was a blessing. With what we know now, at least as rumor, there was an altercation that maybe happened a couple months ago on a bus ride home, and you know, guys along the road, young guys, and it's primarily this group was primarily a young team, although there were certainly outstanding seniors in this group who have gone on and have gone on and going to get a chance to play somewhere. But I guess it stemmed, hey, they needed kind of a tough loss, whatever, and the attitude or whatever wasn't taken right, by guys, and sometimes it's not in college all just games, or just play, just kind of.
Well, you know what, Henry, I hear what you're saying. I don't mean to cut you off, but and you've been close to the situation, and in fact, you called me earlier today, and I had other friends call me yesterday and today. This is not something that's going away anytime soon in terms of just the bad taste in everybody's mouth about this. And Bobby Harold's the kind of guy that will find no difficulties finding another job somewhere, probably at more money and a better position than he had here. The guy labored under every disadvantage that Trev Albert and the rest of those geniuses at UNO could put him on. They didn't even have a playing field there. They had to play their home games at Boys Town or somewhere, didn't they? So, I mean,
and UNO, the UNO baseball family. By the way, if you give the number, I'm sure you might get a few calls here. But the UNO baseball family supported Bobby Harold, the baseball team. By the way, they won the first conference championship in Division I before hockey, before any of the other sports. Okay, and there's still no, under the guidance and tutelage of Bobby Harold and the guys love playing for us.
Right. We're talking with Henry Kelp, who is one of the great Omahans and sports fans and all-around knowledgeable guys. 402-498-5685. And we're addressing some sadnesses that have taken place with Omaha natives in the last couple of days. This first one's a symbolic shooting by an athletic director. I remember the old days when we had guys like Bob Devaney and Don Leahy at UNO. These were giants, okay? These were men who won football games, won state and national and conference titles routinely, had enough self-confidence and enough gravitas to think enough of themselves not to treat other people badly. Now we have Sean Eichhorst in Lincoln, and we got Trev Alpert here at UNO. There's a pair to not draw to. My take is trade them both to frickin' Texas Rangers, where George W. is commenting today. Let's bring in some new talent in the administrative arena. Let's go get the best athletic directors out there to monitor these programs. And I have nothing against Trev Alpert. Very impressive, good-looking guy, nice guy. But I got to look at what's going on with that program, and it seems like, Henry, the whole game now is about ice hockey with the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Nothing wrong with that in terms of that in and of itself. But now we've gotten rid of wrestling. We've gotten rid of intercollegiate football, which I had a problem with and continue to. And now we fired the best baseball coach we've ever had. And I guess I wonder who's running the asylum. Is it the inmates, Henry?
Well, you don't know. Certainly, like if you said, Bob Harold is a class guy. He will. I've never known Bobby. He knows he has an eternal perspective. A godly man and a godly family man will take the high road. He defend his players and his team, and be the first guy to tell you if he was in error, or for that matter, made an error. So,
well, you mentioned the fact that this might have stemmed from an altercation on a bus or somewhere with a player, but the players on the team are all shocked. And in the World Herald article today, that was one of the headlines on page 2, on the second page of the story. People aren't old enough to remember this, but I remember everything except what happened yesterday. But back in the mid-'60s, the New York Yankees manager was a guy named Yogi Berra, a pretty well-known Hall of Fame ball player and manager of the Yankees. They had a backup shortstop named Phil Wins, who was once caught playing a harmonica on the team bus in Detroit or somewhere going back to the airport, and Berra told him to put it down. They'd lost the doubleheader. Linz kept playing this thing. Berra went back there and punched the guy's lights out, okay? In those days, you paid attention to authority. That ain't the case anymore. And, Bobby Harold, I can't imagine doing anything other than treating all of his players with respect. He could be tough. He should be. I mean, that's the kind of, you're talking about young guys. They need some direction. They need some handling. And so I just find it very hard to believe that this is, in fact, the case.
We've all played with a group of guys that just doesn't quite grasp the levity of losses and the kind of attitude you need to be taken if certainly what you need to do to step up to the plate the next time. And we've all played for coaches like that in our careers. I know I played for a coach or had the opportunity to be part of a team in high school where one time the coach didn't roll the balls out, and we wondered why. That's because we got to run all practice.
Well, you need to go do that again, and I need to go. I got to run on you. Henry, thanks so much for being on top of this story, and if there's updates on it in the next few days, would you? By the way, I called Hal Daub today and talked to him, And he's on the Board of Regents. They have not been given, according to him, an explanation of what happened. They don't. And I'm thinking, you know what? When I was on the Board of Regents 40 years ago, I would think the firing of a major sport coach at a university would be something that the regents would at least be brought in on and said, here's what we're planning on doing. What do you think? Particularly a guy like Daub. And so Albert did the same thing on this one that he did when he got rid of the wrestling programs and the football team. He just did it. It's unilateral. He probably called the chancellor, who probably can't find his butt with either hand. And that's what they did. It's regrettable. It's foolhardy. It's rude. It's unkind. And I'll tell you what, if I'm the next coach at UNO, I'd be looking behind my back every time, because there's somebody looking down your throat when in the middle of your backside when you coach a team. I got to go, Henry. I got some other stuff to do. Thank you so much for the call, sir, very much. And Henry is an absolutely wonderful citizen of this community, and I'm fortunate that he calls the show from time to time. And he and I talked about Bobby Harold this morning, and I had a couple of other people last night. I've gotten emails on it. It's a big deal. This guy is one of Omaha's best, and he got fired, and I don't know why. I'd like to know. A more important story is the death of a 27-year-old Omaha native who worked for the Democratic National Committee in Washington, D.C., and we're talking about Seth Conrad Rich, who, among other things, graduated from Omaha Central and Creighton University, and was cutting a pretty fast career path in Democratic Party politics. He was the director at the Democratic National Committee on Voter Expansion Data, and that's a pretty big deal, pretty big job, pretty important one. These elections flow on information about the voting population in every one of the congressional districts, right down to the precinct level in every one of the 50 states. And apparently I did not know this young 27-year-old man. Somebody shot him in the back in Washington, D.C. 4:15 a.m. He was shot multiple times. The acting captain of the Metropolitan Police in Washington, their homicide branch, said at a news conference that Rich lived in the area he was shot at. There were no witnesses. Police have no suspects. And investigators are looking into all possible motives. For the life of me, I couldn't tell you what possible motive anybody could have for this. And I'm so sad and so just shocked by this. Even Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who I've never quoted on this show and never will again, who was the DNC chairwoman, said, our hearts are broken with the loss of one of our DNC members. Over the weekend, Seth Rich was a dedicated, selfless public servant who worked tirelessly to protect the most sacred right we share as Americans, the right to vote. He saw the great potential of our nation and believed that together we could make this world a better place. He was a joy to have as a team member. His talents, intelligence, enthusiasm were deeply missed by many friends, colleagues, and co-workers who worked by his side in service to the highest ideals of democracy. We send our heartfelt sympathies and so on. His parents, Mary Ann and Joel Rich, of course, are heartbroken by this. His father said he worked hard and wanted to make a difference, and unfortunately now there's someone who could have made a difference who isn't going to be there. And the 27-year-old was already beginning to have an impact. He was the youngest such person to hold such a critical position for the DNC, and he was looking and finding innovative ways to reach out to voters. Wish we'd had him on the Republican side, frankly. And interesting guy. His career started as a young guy at Central High School, had a knack for talking to anyone and was committed to serving his country. So his mom says he knew how to make people lighten up by sharing his obsession for pandas and smiles. Will I miss him forever? Yes. But I have to remember the happy times to get through the tears, said his mother, Mary Ann. And they wanted the people in Omaha to know how grateful they are to the many people who have called and written messages, including both mayors of D.C. and Omaha. Says it's bringing them comfort at a very difficult time. There were no witnesses, and police have no suspects. Investigators looking at what possible motive could this have. They suspect it was a robbery, but nothing was taken from him, said the police, except, I guess, his life. Seth Rich, our prayers are for you in that better place. You will be missed by people here and around the country. God decided to take you early. Maybe you can give him some help on how to recruit voters for the cause here on earth for the Great Commission, the one that lasts beyond the grave. Seth Rich, Omaha native, dead at the age of 27. These in the no good deed should go unpunished category of our show. The time's 4:36. We're going to jump to a commercial break here on the Answer Omaha Conservative Talk, 94.5, 1420 AM. TheAnswerOmaha.com. If you want to call after the break, we're at 402-498-5685. We're going to be bringing up Will Ponte, political commentator, national talk show host, and author and writer in just a moment. We're going to be talking about the politics of Dallas, what Obama said and what he should have said when we get back.
Are you one of the millions who deal with pesky viruses on old computer systems each day? Want an easy solution to keeping it running at its best and assure your data is secure? Redeemed Computers and Electronics is your solution, offering full-service computer repair for all your technology needs. As certified Microsoft refurbishers, you'll find a full showroom of computers and laptops at way below market prices. You will always save money, whether for service, repair, or purchase. Why? Because Redeemed Computers and Electronics is a division of the Cross Training Center Ministry, where solutions to poverty come through work experience. That's right. You can be part of the solution and save money too. Oh, and you or your business can donate anything with a cord or battery, even vehicles, for year-end tax deductions at Cross Training 5030 North 72nd Street. Just call 402-590-2100. That's 590-2100. Call now.
It's been called the greatest libertarian show on earth, attended by Donald Trump, Steve Forbes, Glenn Beck, and the most brilliant conservative minds today. It's Freedom Fest, July 13th through the 16th at the Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. This year, come hear Senator Rand Paul, author George Gilder, Judge Andrew Napolitano, and more. And don't miss your chance to win $25,000 in prizes organized by Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington. Register now at freedomfest.com and save $100 by using the code SALEM, all caps, at freedomfest.com.
If you've ever wanted to see for yourself the sights of the early Christian church, here is an exciting trip. This is Alistair Begg inviting you to join me this fall on the Footsteps of the Apostles Mediterranean Cruise. Beautiful accommodations and an opportunity to encounter together the sights of the early church. Stops in Rome, Jerusalem, Athens, and so much more. Plan on joining us.
For more information or to reserve your cabin, visit theansweromaha.com.
In 1963, we listened to Surfin' USA by the Beach Boys as the Beatles began to take the world by storm with their release of I Wanna Hold Your Hand. In that same year, my dad, Norm, launched Norm's Door Service, and we've been serving homeowners and businesses ever since. I'm Ruth, and for more than 50 years, Norm's Door has been in the business of repairing and replacing broken doors, and not just garage doors. Norm's is qualified on the repair and replacement of entry doors, automatic doors, rolling doors, even hangar doors. Large or small, we do it all. Norm's, opening doors since 1963.
Clint Bellows, brought to you in part by Norm's Door Service, The Clint Bellows Show, 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
We have a lot of ground to cover today. Or with Will Ponte, he's capable of covering a lot of ground verbally. I've heard him do it, bringing some erudition and some insights that most people just can't even begin to comprehend. The great Will Ponte, who has appeared on over 300 radio shows in his life, has been a host on Los Angeles public television, written a couple of dozen books. Let's get the book out of the way right now, Will. We've seen the future, and it looks like Baltimore by Craig Smith and Will Ponte. How can our listeners get this great book?
They can get it absolutely free and postpaid by calling 1-800-630-1494. That's 1-800-630-1494. Now, why would you care about it? Because this is an example of major racial hostility, cop hatred, cops being attacked. Only a year ago, riots and burning and looting in the city. In a case where, as we now look at it, in the death of Freddie Gray, a dope dealer, everything was administered, or the main people accused in the trial were black cops, a black mayor, a black judge, a black prosecutor, a black police chief, and an intensely racially mixed but largely black police department.
Yeah.
And of course, so who is to blame for this? Well, of course, white people.
You know, it's the complete lack of intellectual, not just honesty, but even grasp, even depth, even any kind of a real take by the head speech giver in chief. I mean, he got up, and I refuse to play anything by this gentleman for the next 8 months until January 20th or 21st, 2017. I don't want to hear what this guy has to say, other than maybe getting up late on the evening of November 8th and saying we did everything we could and we wish President-elect Trump well. That's the only thing I want to hear this clown say. But he got down in Dallas today, and he found a way to, I believe, Lowell, kind of desecrate those 5 brave officers.
And even refer to guns. By the way, he could have brought America together genuinely, and he only had to say 2 things to do it. Number 1, I am more responsible than anyone else for the racial hostility in the country, and accordingly, number 2, I am resigning today from the presidency.
Power moves, Lowell. I said I needed power today. You're giving me power.
But he's really not man enough to do such things.
Repeat those. Would you repeat those 2 things he could have said one more time, please?
He could have said that he is more responsible than anyone else for the racial polarization and hatred in the country on both sides, and that therefore he is resigning to atone for his sins.
Yeah, and if we gave Biden 4 or 5 months to screw things up, that might really be entertaining, if nothing else. So,
well, it couldn't be worse than what we have now.
No, really couldn't.
But that's the opportunity missed today. Would you like me to, since you want me to do things, would you like a very rapid riff
I'd like
on what
you
the
to
real situation is here?
Just give me your take. That's what I want to hear.
Like 90 seconds, 2
No,
minutes.
just take your time, but don't leave anything out. But
okay,
we got a lot of ground to cover. We need to talk about Hillary a little bit today. And
oh, sure. Well, we'll do that.
All right.
Number 1, Hillary is accusing white people for an obvious reason. African Americans make up only 12.5% of America's population, but they're 25%, 1 in 4 of the voters for the Democratic Party. She cannot win without a nearly 90% black vote in her favor. She's unlikely to get it because she's so distrusted. In any event,
wait. Are you saying she won't get 90% of the black vote?
She might not. She might not, because
that's controversial.
Well, let's put it this way. A lot of blacks, I think, are going to stay home, and they will stay home for the same reason a lot of whites will. That is, they just don't want to eat the dog food.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, Hillary Clinton herself is an intense racist. She's a woman who called young black males super predators back in 1996.
Yeah.
She has a long history, and in fact, this was done recently in Huffington Post. They did a large piece on all the ways she has offended black people by her behavior.
Yeah.
So she's hardly an angel in that regard. But the larger problem for the Democrats, we have that. We also have, we've talked about this before. What was the last time a Democrat for president won a majority of white male voters? Answer, Lyndon Johnson back in 1964.
Is that right?
Count them, 3 generations ago.
Yeah, I did not
know that. The last
that.
time Democrats carried the white male vote. In any event, 1950, 80% of black babies were born into stable 2-parent homes. Since the Democrats' war on poverty began making everyone welfare dependent, 71% of black babies today are born to single mothers. They grow up without, the male role models they have are the local pimp, the drug pusher like Freddie Gray, and sports stars like Cleveland Browns star Isaac Kroll. By the way, you notice he is in controversy now in Cleveland just before the Republican convention there starts, because Kroll put on his website, or on the web, a drawing, a painting of a black man slashing the throat with a knife of a tied-up white cop. And it was modeled exactly on a shot of one of the ISIS killers killing a Christian.
Yeah.
This is what's out there. We just had a former Miss Alabama suspected from her Southern Florida TV gig on public television because she called the killer in Dallas a martyr.
Oh my goodness.
He was the martyr.
Yeah.
Now this is, and I understand her emotionality because it's been so carefully cultivated by Democrats who've always been the party that wins by racial division, by pitting one race against another. In any event, we have these young black men who are raised in a world where they are told if you go to school, don't come home with an A or a B on your report card because if you do, you're acting white and you will be beaten down by your peers. So what do young African Americans do? Oh, they develop a mode in which they show their manhood by projecting toughness and hostility. Even if it's just a game, even if it's acting to them. The problem is they're often doing this with cops who are of British or German background. and cops from Northern Europe, you know, there was a radical leftist years ago who said that blacks are the sun people, but whites are the ice people.
Yeah.
That's actually partly true.
Geographically speaking, certainly is.
Well, not only geographically, but whites from Northern European background tend to be cool emotionally.
That's true, too.
And so when someone comes on to you...
Unless you're counting some Germans in the 1930s, they got a little hipped up about a few things.
But they did it very coldly.
Yeah, well, that's
the point.
I guess you could say that.
I mean, they're quite capable of killing, and that's the point. I mean, if somebody comes on to you projecting tremendous hostility, and you are one of these cool people who's used to people of British or German descent being very calm and reasonable and thoughtful, and suddenly you have this young black man. By the way, all teenage males are crazy, of whatever race. I mean, that's just what the
I know one who right now is looking at his iPad and eating a popsicle and keeping track of the show all at the same time. So don't say that these kids can't multitask. That's all I want to comment on.
Especially the females who have much more sophisticated brains than we males do.
Let me ask you this. I got, because you are a walking compendium of a lot of interesting things, but I have to ask you, Hillary has immediately gone into her anti-white, really anti-police, gun control. Let's create $1 billion federal program to study the problem kind of a thing. Have you heard that?
Well, sure, but I mean, understand Hillary's position. The way the Democrats operate is very straightforward, and that is to win the support of black people. You don't say to them, you are a failure because you didn't study in school, because you spent your time smoking dope, because you came from a culture that discouraged learning and so on. And you came from a culture that taught you when you go in to talk to a guy who might hire you for a job, you just show him hate and hostility. Well, that's a real good way to get your job.
Yeah, it's.
And now we're only talking about that 1/3 of blacks who are the underclass. The other 2/3 are fine. They're middle class. They do good jobs. They're just like everybody else. But that 1/3 on the bottom, they are basically doomsday on a half shell in terms of achievement. I mean, everything in their life works against them. They've spent their lives idolizing the pimp and the drug pusher. And so what happens when they encounter police? Well, bad things happen. And bad things, for example, in Minnesota, this case where we were told, oh, the police killed this innocent man. Now turns out he apparently was a suspect in a bank robbery 2 days before.
And
that's why the police stopped him. But we're not allowed to talk about that.
I don't keep track of everything.
And that he also did not have a permit to carry his gun, as the media was quick
and
to
he
tell
did not. He did not. So he didn't have the concealed carry permit that he said he had.
No, he did not.
So this guy was.
Apparently,
He was
I mean, this is what the evidence is beginning to add up to. So the point is, you have this subtext of African American males who are failures.
Those are pretty big headlines, by the way, Lowell. You're breaking some news here, as far as we're concerned.
No, this is all documented. It's already in the media.
Right.
But the point is, what then happens is Democrats and demagogues come to these people and say, it's not your fault. It's not the fault of your culture or your laziness that you didn't study. Well, it's really the fault of those white people over there who are racists.
Yeah.
And when you behave like a criminal in society, which is how white cops naturally perceive you without hostility, and watch you and follow you, and because they watch you more, they catch you doing more things, And because you're poor, you're more, I mean, we could go down a whole sociological list.
Sure.
But the point is, to deny blame, whatever is said by a black Democrat is going to be a way to deny that the young black people are responsible for what happened to them. The responsibility always has to be put on somebody else, preferably a white.
Well, Obama's whole Black Lives diatribe again today, and what he preached in Europe when he inappropriately when he was over there for whatever they call them meetings now. He insists that a biased criminal justice system explains the black crime rate, not their antisocial behavior. By indulging this narrative, Mr. Obama and his fans in the liberal media are playing with fire, and according to the Wall Street Journal, the Dallas carnage was the result of that fire.
Well, I hope people are going to read things like the new book, The War on Cops, by Heather McDonald of the Manhattan Institute. That's a superb book.
Yep.
And it looks into all these excuses that are constantly made. And, of course, the Democratic Party has made its whole political base out of breaking the country up into pieces, trying to gather enough of those pieces to win with. Part of that requires saying to a black audience, none of you are to blame for what's happened here. It's always somebody else who's to blame.
It's
the
a culture.
You hear that, you are hearing people who are the enemy of black people.
If there was racism in Dallas on Thursday night, it was black racism toward white law enforcement officers.
But what we have to remember is, as with John F. Kennedy, this was the act of one crazy guy. This was not the act of everybody. The bad thing is that Barack Obama and other Democrats and Hillary Clinton are trying to carry out the usual I'll get your support mode by telling you white people are to blame, not you.
Yeah.
And frankly, this guy was to blame. By the way, yes, he served in the military in Afghanistan, was it? He was drummed out of the military for sexual activity against a white fellow soldier.
You're breaking a lot of things out there that are not.
All of this is public. All of this is on the internet.
Where did you find that, Lo? I'm not calling.
I don't have that. That was not a main point I was intending to get to. I just have this much time.
But what I'm saying to you is this: you can slow down a little bit.
You can look it up.
I probably will. But the truth of the matter is, the point I'm making is, you have said at least 4 things in the last 10 minutes that have not been on any of the national newscasts. They've not been in the Washington Post, the New York Times, Chicago Tribune, Los Angeles Times, the Boston
Globe. They
have
and a cue you might use, for example, in this guy's military service, who was in Dallas, why he got a dishonorable discharge. He apparently, he was not engaged in rape or anything like that. He was stealing the panties of a female soldier.
Okay, well, that is not as bad as I thought you were going to tell me.
No, I'm not suggesting.
I know some fraternity brothers at the university.
He was not arrested he was not sent to the brig for this, but he was drummed out of the service.
Let me ask you this. We got the Republican convention coming up. You'll be with us next Tuesday. We'll be into the convention by then, and there will be the meeting of the Credentials Committee on Monday of that convention. Do you anticipate any move by any of the dissident elitist members of the Republican establishment to try to sway Trump-won delegates over and get them to uncommit to Trump, throw their support somewhere else, and maybe throw this into a multiple ballot convention situation? Do you see that happening or not?
Well, right now we have Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, who will be chairing the convention. The betting is he would not permit. He's already said he accepts that Trump was legitimately picked. And so it would look terrible for the Republican Party if they did that. On the other hand, the big challenge for Trump is he going to pick Mike Pence, the governor of Indiana, which I think would be a disaster.
So do I. We're together on that one.
Mike Pence betrayed. Mike Pence betrayed the Cruz followers and Ted Cruz by promising he would endorse Cruz, and then leading off his very tepid endorsement of Cruz.
The last
45 seconds of wild praise for Donald Trump.
The last Republican to put an Indiana on the ticket as VP was George H.W. Bush, when he put Dan Quayle, who could only spell potato right 2 out of 3 times. That didn't work out very well in the long run for to
be
Mr.
fair
Bush.
to Dan Quayle, that was a case where Dan Quayle spelled potato the way the teacher in the
No,
class
that's right.
spelled
I'm not
it,
knocking
so
Dan
as not
Quayle.
to embarrass the teacher.
Dan Quayle, and although Lloyd Benson in an Omaha vice presidential debate in 1988, Lloyd Benson famously told Dan Quayle, "You're no John F. Kennedy." And of course he wasn't. Dan Quayle had actually sponsored legislation and had made a contribution as a senator. JFK was a great guy and a lot of funding. He's a playboy, spent most of the time in Palm Beach, never sponsored a bill in the House on the Senate floor. So, in fact, Quayle was a better senator than JFK. But the bottom line on it is that back to your central theme, Mike Pence is a stiff. He's the most inside of insiders. He's dull, he's boring, and who cares? Let's come up with one right now, sir. You have the creative mind that I know you have. Give me a couple people out of left field that might make a difference for Donald Trump.
Oh, I don't want them out of left field.
Excuse me, let's make that right field. Forgive me. Wherever they're coming from. Who are they? Give me two or three.
73, 3 years older than Trump himself.
Yeah.
But I think Newt would by far be the best choice. The only problem is, do you want two old, wrinkled white guys?
Well, Newt brings a lot of bags, and I'm a huge Newt fan, and he would destroy the Democrat. I don't care who it is in the debate. You know, Newt was behind most of these trade deals. Newt has been an internationalist. Newt has some things in his closet that the Dems will bring out, and let's assume he
Even if there are areas where he agrees with them.
Well, bottom line on it is this: I don't think Newt's going to get the call. A lot of people disagree with me on that, and I like you. I think he's brilliant, and I love the guy.
Yeah.
But who else? Who could it be? I mean,
well, General Flynn booted. He failed on his first test.
Yep.
Which is, where do you stand on abortion? I'm for women's rights.
Yep, bad deal.
And then tried to backtrack on it. That was the end right there. He showed he can't stand up in a debate or in a public forum.
A couple
He may be a
people,
brilliant general.
A couple people said, if you're going to pick a military guy, here's two names. Alan West. What do you think of him?
I love him, but he never got a high enough rank to make a difference. I love Alan West. By the way, Alan West wrote a wonderful review of our book about Baltimore.
You know,
people can get
you
by
are
calling
shameless.
1-800-630-1494.
Yeah, all right, yeah. How about and I've read this man's books, and they're worth the endorsement on our show.
They're worth what you pay for them.
Well, and no, they're worth a lot more. Jack Keene's another guy I happen to think a great deal of, who won't get any consideration.
And who?
General Jack Keene, who was a former member of the Joint Chiefs, who he commentates on a couple of the Fox shows and on Sunday morning programs, and this guy knows his stuff.
Oh, yeah, I greatly respect him.
But getting back to, we're going to need to carry Ohio to win this thing. I've got about a minute. Yet Kasich says he's not even going to bother to show up for the convention. What about Rob Portman, senator from Ohio? Is that a possibility in your mind, sir? Or is Rubio back in the picture?
I find Portman is on paper a good guy, but he's very dull.
He's not.
He's a little too center left.
Okay, fair enough. But how are you going to get Ohio in the win column?
It's a problem.
It is a problem. Then
I think you have to appeal to white working people in the Rust Belt state. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got the specter of Hillary possibly picking Tim Kaine, former governor, now senator from Virginia,
who is fluent in Spanish.
By the way, I think he'd be an excellent VP choice for her, and
he would be.
And my take is, if she brings him on the ticket, she wins Virginia, and now you're really going to know when you got to win two of those three. You got to take Florida, Virginia, Ohio. You got to have two of the three. Unless you dislodge Pennsylvania or New York or Michigan or some other Rust Belt state, which I'm not sure Trump can do.
I think Trump could carry Pennsylvania.
I hope you're right. I really do. Sir, it's always a pleasure. Your acumen and personality and effervescence and shameless plugging of your many, many books is refreshing on this show. How's the weather out there in Carlsbad by the sea?
It's very hot inland, but we're under sea mist right now. So it's about 78 degrees, 77 degrees.
All right. Well, we will look forward to your comments.
Hot.
We'll look forward to your comments, sir, during the Republican convention next week. All the best.
God bless.
Thank you. And that was Lowell Ponte. Time's 5 o'clock. Back at the intersection of faith and reason in just a moment.
94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Translator, 94.5 K233CO, Omaha. And 1420 KOTK, Omaha. The Answer.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters. Thousands gathered in Dallas, Texas today for a memorial service for 5 slain police officers killed by a sniper last Thursday during a Black Lives Matter demonstration. Both President Obama and former President George W. Bush were on hand for the ceremony. President Obama says despite these shootings, America can overcome its racial tensions and other divisions.
I'm here to insist that we are not as divided as we seem. And I know that because I know America. I know how far we've come against impossible odds.
While former President George W. Bush says at times of fear and division like this, Americans must rededicate themselves to unity and justice.
To renew our unity, we only need to remember our values. We have never been held together by blood or background. We are bound by things of the Spirit, by shared commitments to common ideals.
A federal appeals court has ordered Utah to keep sending money to Planned Parenthood.
The 10th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Denver says there's a good chance the move was politically motivated and violated the group's constitutional rights. The ruling extends an order that keeps the money flowing while a lawsuit goes back before a judge in Utah. Last fall, the state's governor cut off funding for programs following the release of secretly recorded videos showing out-of-state employees discussing fetal tissue from abortions. State attorneys have argued that the governor has a right to end contracts. Dennis Crowley reporting.
On Wall Street, a good day as the Dow was up by 120 points to 18,348. The Nasdaq rose 34. The S&P advanced 15. Oil up to $46.62 a barrel. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey there, this is Eric Metaxas. Lately, I've been telling you about Liberty University's online degree programs. Liberty University is the world's largest Christian university with over 95,000 students studying around the world through Liberty's online programs. While there are a lot of universities who've jumped into online education, few can deliver on the promise of a quality education with such flexibility, and even fewer can actually point to a graduate of their online program like my friend Morgan from Nashville.
I did it. I actually got my degree from Liberty University. 2 degrees, actually. Not only has this process taught me self-discipline, I've also learned that it is never too late to fulfill your dreams. And I did it all online. I did it, and you can too.
Call Liberty University now at 800-424-9595. That's 800-424-9595, 800-424-9595, or visit liberty.edu/online. Flexible, affordable, possible. Liberty University online.
Here's the townhall.com business brief.
A record close for the Dow and the S&P on what turned out to be another good day on Wall Street. The gains followed strong performances by markets overseas. American employers advertised fewer jobs and hired fewer people in May, a bad month for the U.S. labor market before a surge in hiring in June. Federal safety investigators asking electric car maker Tesla Motors for details on how its autopilot system works and why one of its cars failed to detect a tractor-trailer that crossed its path in a deadly Florida crash. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average surged 120 points to close at 18,348. The Nasdaq Composite Index gained 34 points, and the S&P 500 closed with a 15-point gain. With business, I'm Rich Thomason.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters.
94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Weather. Here's Matt Duncan.
Here's a look at the forecast for Tuesday night. We'll watch a warm front begin to live north across the region. That could trigger a late night thunderstorm. Otherwise partly cloudy, warm, a little more humid with a low down to 71. A continued chance of showers and thunderstorms into Wednesday, especially after about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Partly sunny, high around 89. South winds 5 to 15. And then Thursday, that front gets pushed back south. It'll be sunny and a high right around 86. That's a look at the forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Duncan.
Michael Medved explains the problems facing police today.
The crime rate is down nationally, half of what it was in 1990. Does this mean that people don't get pulled over who shouldn't get pulled over? Does it mean that there isn't a problem? No, there is a problem. But the problems are not problems of policing at their core. They're a problem of schools, of neighborhoods, of family structure, of economy and economic opportunity.
The Michael Medved Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Clint Bellows at 4 on 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. The Clint Bellows Show. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
just can't believe where my life was at. All that I know is my heart was broken. I don't ever want to go back. Ain't no explanation how I saw the light. He found me and set me free, and he brought me back to life. Blame it on the transformation.
At the intersection of faith and reason. Omaha Conservative Talk, Omaha Christian Talk for this half hour. Welcome to the intersection of faith and reason, where we attempt on a daily basis at 5:05 to 5:30 to try to figure out a way to hook our faith and our belief system and our worldview in a Christian slash morally consistent way of looking at the events of our times and trying to make some sense out of it and trying to figure out how to go forward. And one of the people we call upon on a regular basis to do that is author and former G-Man, I didn't know until recently, the great John McTiernan, who joins us from Pennsylvania today. And welcome to the show, sir. I'm talking as fast as I can. We've got the Republican convention coming up in Cleveland, Ohio on Monday. And I'm just curious, do you believe, and in fact, Politico.com, which was founded by a guy I knew in the Reagan administration named Fred Ryan, who is now the editor of the Washington Post, but he founded Politico. And I'm astonished that Fred Ryan, who was a conservative, I believe probably still is, but I don't know, he's working for the guy that runs the Post, Jeff Bezos or whatever his name is, so that can't do your conservative cred much good. But Politico says today, will Trump's nomination be the end of the religious right? Conservative Christians have long aligned with the Republican Party, but never before has a GOP nominee so flouted religious beliefs. I'm not sure I agree with that. That's the writer Laura Turner of Politico writing this. And a number of people within the, according to her, within the Christian Republican establishment, we're talking about the Heritage Foundation, Focus on the Family, there's all kinds of groups back there and across the country that align along these paths. But now Ferris, this fellow who helped found the Moral Majority and Ronald Reagan back in '79, is declaring the death of the very group to which he once dedicated his life. He's not alone either, and it's all thanks to Donald Trump. The religious right has been locked in an intense debate over whether they can support Trump, whose religion or lack of therein is less aligned with evangelicalism than any Republican candidate in recent history. First of all, John, do you agree with that, and what do you think of the premise?
Well, I don't agree with it. I couldn't line up really with Romney when Romney ran. And I remember, I'm an old timer now, and I remember when Jimmy Carter ran, and he was a born-again Christian, and he was leading Bible studies and doing this, that, and the other thing. And the man was, politically, he was completely,
He's a disaster. He's a disaster. Jimmy Carter was completely out of his depth. He was a lousy one-term governor of Georgia. Right. I knew people down in Georgia said if he'd run for re-election, he'd have lost for governor. Okay?
Yeah. So I don't buy that. I don't buy that argument at all. And when you look in the Bible, God used unbelievers to do great things, like Cyrus and Darius in the Bible, for example.
Sure.
So it's not a black and white issue as they're presenting it.
Well, and Trump made the comment. He was quoted once of quoting one of the books of the Bible. He called it 2 Thessalonians or 2 Corinthians. I think it was 2 Thessalonians. And of course, that spawned a whole bunch of jokes. 2 Thessalonians walked into the bar. What did they say to the bartender type of thing, instead of saying 2 Thessalonians, which might have been an indication that Trump maybe needs a little more Bible study work. But, it's often easy to see the speck in another person's eye and failing to see the log in our own, isn't it? And your comment about Romney is completely correct. We got behind a guy who, candidly, and I have many Mormon friends, I have great respect for them, their families, their business skills, They are a very admirable group of people, but their theology is not one that I've ever been able to get my hands around and haven't, quite frankly, spent a lot of time worried about over the last 40 years because it's a little bit extracurricular for me from most New Testament thought. That doesn't mean that I couldn't get behind Mitt Romney. I did. The only guy that didn't campaign for Mitt Romney was Mitt Romney. But
well, at the end, I don't know what happened to him at the end. I don't know what happened. He ran the campaign right into the ground. I think he had a chance if he followed
He laid
through.
down, and Sonny Liston was given better instructions. That second fight with Ali. Okay,
You're funny.
This guy took a dive, man. I mean, he had Obama on the carpet in that second debate and couldn't close the deal. I asked some people back in D.C. that I still knew at that point what they thought. The rumor back there was that the Obama campaign had something on Romney.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
And he didn't. And they said, you don't come out against Obama on Benghazi and on the Middle East, and we won't come out against whatever the indiscretion you may have been responsible for, whatever secret you're hiding. And I've often wondered, as long as we're talking about this whole concept of clandestine politics, I saw a text one of my friends or associates sent that said, it had showed Comey's picture giving his press conference the other day, and he said, I would recommend a bill of indictment against Mrs. Clinton to Secretary Lynch, Attorney General Lynch, except I don't want to die in an accident of a premature death, okay? And, one of the comments that was also sent to me, and I get these all the time, you've seen them, there's an article today in one of the blogs called The Clinton Body Bags, okay? And in that article, it talks about 57 friends and associates and political contacts and intimates of Bill and Hillary Clinton who died premature deaths. We don't have to go back through all of that again. But I guess the bottom of line as I see this thing, John, is we're cruising into this Republican convention next week. Real Clear Politics, who I believe does about as good a job of averaging poll results as anybody out there, has had Donald Trump about 5 down now for 6 weeks. The needle has not moved on him since May. And he's had a pretty dead May-June period after the primaries. I mean, the guy is really not taking advantage of this time to move his campaign forward in any meaningful way. If he doesn't move that needle, he's a well-known commodity. So is she. She's got him by 5 points. What can he do at this point?
Well, he's got so much ammunition for her, against her. I guess you could say he's got the personal stuff, but he's got to, if he presents like the immigration, if he presents these key issues, immigration, doing the economic reforms. I mean, we have sold the country out. Clint, Pennsylvania, where I live, used to be a tremendous manufacturing state. It's all gone. It's all gone to China. It's gone to Mexico. It's gone to Japan. I don't know, who knows what country, Thailand or wherever. I mean, industry after industry is gone. And Trump has touched the nerve with that.
Yeah.
And if he keeps on talking about that and he keeps on those key issues like that, I think he'll do really well.
Well, we have some big questions to ask you. We're up against a hard break here in a moment. Let me ask you a quickie just before the break. Do you see anybody in your crystal ball that looks like brings something to the ticket as a vice presidential candidate for Trump? Who do you see there? That's a 60-second question.
I'm looking them all over. And I really don't know. Seriously, I don't know. I mean, I thought this stuff about the general, because if you look at that general's politics, Flynn. I mean, wow, it was strange to look at a Democrat, and he was kind of a hardcore Democrat. So I really don't know.
A pro-choice Democrat.
Yeah.
I mean, how in the world does that help Trump with conservatives? That's a great take. Hey, it's 5:15. I'm stuck with this great commercial break here, which I have to take. Well, we'll be back with you in just a moment. As America Has Done Unto Israel, John McTiernan's great book. We'll be back to talk with him a little bit more about what happened in Dallas when we return in just a moment.
Are you tired of staring at that outdated kitchen countertop? What about that boring and dull bathroom floor? Are you frustrated that you just don't have time to do anything about it? There's a simple and easy solution. It's McKean's Floor to Ceiling at 108th and Harrison.
Hi, this is Becky McKean of McKean's Floor to Ceiling. If you have an outdated kitchen or bathroom, I would love to show you ideas that can transform it into a room of beauty. Do you have old matted down carpet and flooring that makes you cringe? I would love to show you ideas that stretch from floor to ceiling.
McKean's Floor to Ceiling at 108th and Harrison has been owned and operated by the McKean family for 50 years. All work is performed by McKean employees, not subcontractors, assuring you the finest high-quality workmanship. Are you thinking about a small or large kitchen or bathroom remodel? You need to call Becky McKean of McKean's Floor to Ceiling at 108th and Harrison. McKean's Floor to Ceiling, 108th and Harrison.
You're not alone if you need a little help with food and general household items. Life isn't always easy, and the Heartland Hope Mission is ready to help. Formerly Mission for All Nations, the Heartland Hope Mission is here to help. The Woodhouse Otto family is impressed with the generosity and provision provided at the Heartland Hope Mission. Imagine the difference a 1 week's supply of food would make for your family each month. Clothing and hygiene items are also available. Heartland Hope Mission is open 1:30 to 4 on Thursday and Saturday, and 6:30 to 7:30 each Tuesday night. They're located on 21st Street, just south of Q. Heartland Hope Mission is putting love in action. For help, call 733-2077. It takes great strength to ask for help. But remember, you're not alone. Heartland Hope Mission is Nebraska's largest food pantry, and they want to help you. Call 733-2077 and visit heartlandhopemission.org for more information. Heartland Hope Mission, 733-2077, heartlandhopemission.org.
The new Pray With Me prayer app is connecting thousands of Christians around the world in experiencing the power of prayer. Connect your Facebook friends and mobile contacts to share requests. See a map of those praying around the world. Set reminders to pray throughout the day. And join prayer groups. Visit praywithme.com to join this worldwide yet personal 24/7 Christian prayer community. Receive prayer. Pray for others at praywithme.com.
The Clint Bellows Show, 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
Nothing can separate, even if I run away. Your love never fails.
We're with John McTiernan, our colleague from the great state of Pennsylvania, and I just want to get something off my chest. We beat Penn State in that 1983 football game in the Nittany Valley out there. We got screwed on that game, John. I want you to know that. It cost us a national championship. What do you have to say about that? You don't know about that. Nobody remembers that kind of thing except me. The Penn State guy caught that ball 2 yards out of bounds, and they gave him a catch. Anyway, let's get back to something more important here. What's your heart telling you about Black Lives Matter, about Mr. Obama's politics again today? And, Walter Williams, a great conservative African-American columnist, says among the nation's most dangerous cities are Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Baltimore, Memphis, Milwaukee, Birmingham, Newark, Cleveland, and Philadelphia. These once thriving cities are in steep decline. And you talked about that in Pennsylvania just a moment ago. What these cities have in common is that they have large black populations. They've been run by Democrats for half a century, with blacks having the significant political power. Other characteristics they share are poorly performing and unsafe schools, poor quality city service, and declining populations. What are you being led to tell us over the next few minutes? You take it away and take it where you want.
Well, you asked me about Black Lives Matter. I'd like to address that first.
Please.
This is a very dangerous group. I have no problem calling it a terrorist group. It was spawned out of the riots in Ferguson, Missouri, which turned out to be bogus.
Yep.
It turned out that the white police officer, was 100% right in shooting Brown, was his name.
Yes.
And it was eyewitnesses saw what happened. The guy was high on marijuana. He strong-armed the convenience store. He tried to take the gun off the police officer in his car. There was shots fired in the car. He got out and bull rushed the cop, and the cop shot him and killed him. And they had hands up, don't shoot. They had riots that went on for I don't know how long. And from that came Black Lives Matter, all built on a lie.
Yep.
Then we go to Baltimore, and the same thing happened in Baltimore. The city was burnt down. Well, not burnt down, but sections of it was rioting. You had a black mayor and a black district attorney and a black chief of police. And they tried to start white racism in the police, but it turns out 6 officers, 3 black, 3 white, were involved. They rushed to, it was like a rush to judgment. Obama, that's the other thing. Obama got behind Ferguson's riots. He got behind Baltimore, and all these times he's an agitator. He was an agitator. He went against the police, and he went for the rioters, and he was saying how much racism in America and all. And now you have the police acquitted in Baltimore. The district attorney is being brought up, as far as I understand, on charges of incompetence and malfeasance and taking cases that didn't have evidence and trying people. I mean, you can't do that. And the city is in sharp decline, as all sorts of police officers have left, got jobs other places. The murder rate is spiking. I mean, just absolutely off the chart, the murder rate, the crime rate in Baltimore. The city can be destroyed now. And this is what the left in America, this is them. This Baltimore has been a left city as long as you can remember.
No, it goes back to the 50s, and
that's what I'm saying.
It has been misrun by whoever was in charge. We have a very excellent caller for you, John. Mark, it's good to hear from you. Haven't talked to you in a while. I wondered where you were. I dug your phone number out of my briefcase the other night, and I'm responsible for not calling you back. How are you, sir? And thank you for calling the show.
Hey, I'm good, Clint. I'm good. I'm happy to call in. I was just listening to the show, and
I'm going to guess you don't agree with me on everything so far. Just a wild guess.
You would be correct, sir.
Okay.
I just real briefly, I think the problem in America today, as far as Black Lives Matter and the police and the brutality, is that. I think white people, and I hate to say it this way, but I think a lot of white people, they live in. You seen that movie, The Matrix, with Keanu Reeves?
He made a ton of dough doing that, didn't he? There's a white guy. There's a honky that made a lot of dough. Okay.
White people live in the Matrix. They live in the Matrix, and in the Matrix, all cops are good. And they're only there to help and protect you. And also in the Matrix, black guys, except for the ones that are on TV, they're all overly aggressive, and suspicion should always be cast on them.
Okay.
And then also in the Matrix, poor people are just people who don't want to work and would rather get a check from the government than go out and support themselves.
You're saying that this is the way white people think? You're saying that this is the white people think?
That's the matrix that you guys live in.
No, that's not the matrix we live in.
The truth
that's
is
the
a little
hard
bit more
left matrix that you're trying to put us in. That's nonsense.
The truth is just a little bit more complicated than that,
Right,
and that's why that we have the truth clashing with the matrix that white people.
So you're speaking truth, and we're living in a delusion. That's what you're saying.
Well, it's an image that you guys try to portray, because
what you've taken is the hard left narrative. That's what you swallow.
I haven't taken
and
hard
as
left
long as you follow people like Bill Clinton, you people are gonna you people. Well, how else can I say it? You're gonna end up like you live.
But
Baltimore, Baltimore is a black city.
I've sat up and listened to you guys
Don't blame the white people.
Not once have you ever laid the responsibility of what's going on the police. You totally absolved them of any responsibility.
I didn't absolve them of anything. You did. You're putting words in our mouth. This is why we got such a racial divide.
No, I'm not. It's everybody's fault except
the white man's fault that Baltimore is in the condition it's in. Is that the white man's fault?
Yeah, it is. It is because they created the economic conditions that ultimately put that into financial
Hey guys,
decline.
this is my show. I need to get a word in edgewise here, okay? Nobody lets me talk, okay? Hold on, time out, okay?
I'll let you talk.
No, John, we're gonna come back to you at the bottom of the hour. We've got about a minute and a half. I want to let Mark continue to speak for the next minute and a half because he's a bright guy. And Mark, you got to come in here and co-host the show with me someday.
Anytime, man, anytime.
All right, so make sure that Braden gets your. I think I got your number, but I'm not sure I got the right one. But I understand what you're saying, and I have not walked in your shoes, and I don't see the world exactly the way an African American man my age or younger would see it. And I'm just telling you, John. You know, we can argue that our point of view is right or that Mark's wrong, whatever. That ain't getting us anywhere. At some point, we've both got to take a look at what the middle ground might be or what the truth is, you know?
Clint, he's projecting on what white people think.
All right, John, you get your time after 5:30, okay? But Mark, you know, I look at what happened in Dallas the other night, and I don't get a man with a high-powered rifle killing 5 white police officers and wounding 7. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for these traffic stops if they've gone bad. Not all cops are bad. Not all cops are good. I want you to come in again and talk to me, and I want you to come in and be sure we get your phone number. If you would you give that to Braden for me, Mark? I'd like to. Let's talk again tomorrow about this for sure. All right.
Okay. Back
in a moment. That's our good friend Mark. Call back with John McTiernan in just a second.
Dennis Prager believes we've hit a new low.
The corruption is so deep, and it is so painful to me as a lover of this country. There have been many politicians who have engaged in disrespectable, non-respectable dealings, but she's number one. She's the lowest character candidate in American history. Here is the most interesting aspect of it. It doesn't bother any Democrat.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at 11, right before Michael Medved at 2 on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer. Dale Walmsley explains what happens when the government gets involved in your money.
Cycles have normal restrictions upon them. And if it was a pure and open marketplace, you could count on cycles to keep us going in the right direction in a safe zone forever. But my friends, when the government gets in and gerrymanders the world, cycles are not pure.
The Dale Walmsley Radio Show, weekday mornings at 10 on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer.
In 1963, we listened to Surfin' USA by the Beach Boys as the Beatles began to take the world by storm with their release of I Want to Hold Your Hand. In that same year, my dad, Norm, launched Norm's Door Service, and we've been serving homeowners and businesses ever since. I'm Ruth, and for more than 50 years, Norm's Door has been in the business of repairing and replacing broken doors, and not just garage doors. Norm's is qualified on the repair and replacement of entry doors, automatic doors, rolling doors, even hangar doors. Large or small, we do it all. Norm's, opening doors since 1963.
Steve Dace believes we need to open our eyes during a debate.
And I think both sides are guilty of this. The side with the rainbow flag, when they shut down businesses, forget that those are real people. And I think those of us, while defending ardently the concept of marriage, sometimes forget that those who disagree with us are people too.
The Steve Dace Show, weeknights at 8, right after Larry Elder at 6. On FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer. Hugh Hewitt gives you a peek into a Hillary presidency.
The rule of elite. If Hillary Clinton wins this election, your life is going to be run by federal judges that she appoints who are going to be hard left. They're going to take away your Second Amendment rights. They're going to limit your First Amendment rights. They're going to make your legislatures completely irrelevant. Hillary Clinton's federal courts will be the most radical thing in the world. I'm out there telling everyone to get behind Donald Trump. We cannot let Hillary Clinton be the next president of the United States.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Weekday mornings at 5, right before Mike Gallagher at 8 on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer. There is only one way to win back the White House. One way to get the country back. One way to make the 8-year nightmare go away. It all starts in Cleveland in July. And finally, it's time to get it started.
Let's get it started.
Join most of the hosts on this station for live coverage from the GOP convention, morning, noon, and night. The biggest story of the year, and it starts and ends right here, beginning July 18th on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Speaking at a memorial service in Dallas, President Obama says the killing of 5 police officers was a vicious, calculated, and despicable attack on law enforcement by a demented individual. Mr. Obama says another mass shooting has made Americans unsettled as they seek answers to the violence and wonder about the nation's persistent racial divide. Black and white religious leaders and community leaders from a broad spectrum of churches and groups have met in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to map out a strategy for making the city more equitable and racially united. The group hopes to turn the publicity from the videotaped fatal police shooting of Alton Sterling into a moment of change and action for the city. A good day on Wall Street as the Dow is up by 120 points to close at 18,348. The Nasdaq rose 34. The S&P advanced 15. Oil up to $46.45 a barrel. More details at srnnews.com.
94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Weather. Here's Matt Duncan.
Here's a look at the forecast for Tuesday night. We'll watch a warm front begin to live north across the region. That could trigger a late night thunderstorm. Otherwise partly cloudy, warm, a little more humid with a low down to 71. A continued chance of showers and thunderstorms into Wednesday, especially after about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Partly sunny, high around 89. South winds 5 to 15. And then Thursday, that front gets pushed back south. It'll be sunny and a high right around 86. That's a look at the forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Duncan.
The Clint Bellows Show. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
No, that is not a scene from...
We saw? He died.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
We came.
That is the head cuckoo, who is also the presumptive Democratic nominee for President of the United States. We're back. We're joined by John McTiernan. John, the gentleman who was talking with us is a gentleman by the name of Mark, who has called the show a number of times. I haven't heard from him in a while, but I wanted to hear what he had to say, because too often we, and I candidly, it's not this case of, walking a mile in the other guy's moccasins, that old saying, and although there's a lot of truth to it, nonetheless, that was not where I was going. I wanted to understand. I saw a Fox News show last night hosted by Megyn Kelly. She had 25 audience participants, and these were all people that had distinguished themselves or were known for some contribution to the debate: whites, blacks, liberals, conservatives, law enforcement, sociologists, on and on and on and on. And at the end of the day, all they did was scream at each other. Nobody heard anything the other one had to say, really. And I think that's part of the problem. But how do we get beyond that?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And it's like part of it, Clint, is how you frame questions. So I'm listening to the caller, and he's telling me I live in the Matrix. I live in a delusion.
Yeah, not having seen any of those movies, because I can't stand Keanu Reeves. The bottom line, I guess I shouldn't say that.
They were living in a delusion. They thought that they were living in a reality, but their mind was being controlled.
Okay, all right.
So it's how you one of it is how you present it. If you want me to listen to you, Clint, you have to present things in a non-condescending, non-aggressive manner for me to listen to you.
Right.
Once someone says I'm living in a delusion and he's speaking reality and truth, that's basically the end of it, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I'm
not going to listen to that.
No, I get your sense of insult there, but I know this gentleman enough to know that I don't believe in his heart of hearts that's what he was trying to do. You have no such insight. You've never met him, but he said some things that obviously on their face don't make any sense. But this is the mythology of the whole situation, isn't it? I mean, isn't the whole thing predicated on misunderstanding? And candidly, I'm going to come out and say I think the blacks are on the wrong side of this deal. Period. Okay, from the head guy in the White House, okay, who got up in Dallas, Texas today and talked about gun control and racism when you had 5 grieving families of fallen heroes who had been murdered by a black racist in Dallas, Texas. This man couldn't get beyond his own pigmentation and talk to them and the nation. It had to be another discussion of his political agenda, and I'm fed up with it. I don't know about you, John McTiernan.
exactly right. I mean, I got a law enforcement background. We discussed that. It was some revelation to you last week. Yeah, so I come from a law enforcement background. I've been on the inside. Yeah, there's bad cops. I know that. And are we going to? We got to be very careful because you could have anarchy very quickly, Clint. Yeah. We're teetering and tottering on anarchy, and I'll give you the perfect example. And I mentioned this earlier. The city of Baltimore is heading into anarchy right now.
Yeah.
The police have quit because why? The mayor said they were all racist and I don't know, brutal, and the district attorney did.
That's right. This is the thin blue line we're talking about.
And Obama did it. Obama did it. Holder did it. So the police now, they don't want to. They're getting out of Baltimore. They're getting jobs other places. They're retiring. So Baltimore's got this dwindling police force. No one wants the job. Now you've got anarchy in the streets. The murder rate is off the chart. The crime rate is off the chart.
John, I'm off the chart in terms of time, unfortunately.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. Let's get together and talk next week during the convention, and we'll continue this discussion. I promise you this ball will not be dropped. And I'm so thankful to have John McTiernan. Time is our enemy on these things. We just don't have enough of it. Thank you so much, sir. We'll talk next week.
God bless you.
That was our good friend John McTiernan. We've got Sean on the line. Sean, how you feeling, man?
I'm good.
Well, tell
Hanging
me
in there.
Well, you had a lot of people in your camp yesterday. I think you know that, and as well as the Lord God Almighty, who I believe has stepped into your situation. He's in the gap in front of you with the things you're going through, and this is your time in the barrel, my friend. And you've been in it for a while now, and my prayer is that you're coming out of it finally. Are you feeling any better? Are you feeling better physically or mentally, or what's going on?
Yes, I am physically better and mentally recharged. So we're back in the fight.
Well, look, I've got a lot of fight left in me too, but I don't have a lot of time today, unfortunately. Can we talk a little bit later in the week, sir? And will you? You've got my number. I gave you my home phone number. Call me anytime you want to talk, and things will get better, sir.
That's right, they will.
God bless you, and God bless your service to this country as a Marine and all the other good things you've done.
Yeah, God bless you too.
All the best, my friend.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Hoorah. That was our friend Sean. We're going to come back in just a moment. We're going to take a commercial break. We're getting a little bit screwed up schedule-wise here. My fault, not yours, folks. This is The Answer, Omaha.com, Omaha's Conservative Talk, 498-5685. The Clint Bellows Show. We're going to come back and talk with Luke Adler about Waco, Texas, and about Hillary Clinton in just a moment.
It's an emotional time when a family realizes that loved ones can't stay at home anymore. They need to find a place that feels like home, and the care is the kind of care that the family themselves would give. Via Christi is that place. I'm Teresa, Director of Nursing at Via Christi. We offer assisted living for seniors needing extra help, as well as customized care with special memory units for those with dementia and Alzheimer's. From the daily Catholic Mass, meals, activities, and health care, we at Via Christi care for your loved ones like we would care for our own. Visit viachristi.com to learn more.
When we created Omaha's newest radio station, we wanted you to find us all over the place. So we put this thing of ours on FM. We are Omaha's first FM talk station on 94.5 FM. We're also on AM at 1420 AM. We have a new station app, and we have a new station website, theansweromaha.com. You can get us on TuneIn and iHeartRadio. We're everywhere. We have to be, because you need us. Omaha's Conservative Talk, 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
If you've ever wanted to see for yourself the sights of the early Christian church, here is an exciting trip. This is Alistair Begg inviting you to join me this fall on the Footsteps of the Apostles Mediterranean Cruise. Beautiful accommodations and an opportunity to encounter together the sights of the early church. Stops in Rome, Jerusalem, Athens, and so much more. Plan on joining us.
For more information or to reserve your cabin, visit theansweromaha.com.
Clint Bellows. Brought to you in part by Norm's Door Service, The Clint Bellows Show, 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
Policeman. A policeman is a composite of what all men are, I guess, a mingling of saint and sinner, dust and deity. Culled statistics wave the fan over stinkers, underscore instances of dishonesty and brutality because they are news. What that really means is that they are exceptional. They are unusual. They are not commonplace. Buried under the froth is the fact. And the fact is that less than 0.5% of policemen misfit that uniform. And that is a better average than you'd find among clergymen. What is a policeman? He of all men is at once the most needed and the most wanted. A strangely nameless creature who is sir to his face and pig or worse behind his back. He must be such a diplomat that he can settle differences between individuals so that each will think he won, but if a policeman is neat, he's conceited. If he's careless, he's a bum. If he's pleasant, he's a flirt. If he's not, he's a grouch. He must make instant decisions which would require months for a lawyer, but if he hurries, he's careless. If he's deliberate, he's lazy. He must be first to an accident, infallible with a diagnosis. He must be able to start breathing, stop bleeding, tie splints, and above all, be sure the victim goes home without a limp or expect to be sued. The police officer must know every gun, draw on the run, and hit where it doesn't hurt. He must be able to whip two men twice his size and half his age without damaging his uniform and without being brutal. If you hit him, he's a coward. If he hits you, he's a bully. A policeman must know everything and not tell. He must know where all of the sin is and not partake. The policeman from a single human hair must be able to describe the crime, the weapon, the criminal, and tell you where the criminal is hiding, but if he catches the criminal, he's lucky. If he doesn't, he's a dunce. If he gets promoted, he has political pull. If he doesn't, he's a dullard. The policeman must chase bum leads to a dead end, stake out 10 nights to tag one witness who saw it happen but refuses to remember. He runs files and writes reports until his eyes ache to build a case against some felon who will get dealed out by a shameless Seamus or an honorable who isn't honorable. The policeman must be a minister, a social worker, a diplomat, a tough guy, and a gentleman. And, of course, he'll have to be a genius because he'll have to feed a family on a policeman's salary.
And that was the late, great Paul Harvey, social commentator, longtime radio talk show host. I happened to hear that last night. I thought it was so good. I hadn't heard it in many, many years. I heard Paul Harvey at the Civic Auditorium about 100 years ago. Well, as a young man, he came here with Art Linkletter and a number of other people to speak at that downtown Omaha iconic facility. We have Luke Adler with us, who, among other things, has been a law enforcement officer, is the author of Chasing Bandits. Luke's been doing yeoman service for us this past week. We've talked to him. We talked to him on Friday about what had happened in Dallas, and we're bringing him back today. We had the President of the United States, who I'm not going to comment on his comments, and we had George W. Bush, that other whatever it is he was. At least he brought a little dignity and a little correct analysis of the situation to his remarks. Luke Adler, it takes an awful lot of different skills to be a law enforcement officer, and it's a pretty thankless job, isn't it? You can catch a bullet in the back for doing absolutely nothing wrong, can't you?
Absolutely. It happens all the time, Clint. And we, like Chief Brown was talking about, we expect so much of these police officers nowadays, and we pay them so little and give them so little respect now from this administration on forward. And they do yeoman's work out there every day to keep us safe.
Well, I'm just tired of the narrative, and Hillary Clinton, our favorite poster girl, a little teapot, short and stout, open her mouth and the lies come out. She announced yesterday that she wants to, when she's inaugurated as our next queen, she wants to implement $1 billion program to straighten out police forces in this country.
You just said a second ago that you're tired of the narrative.
Yep.
The left, the liberals, have stolen that narrative. That's exactly what's going on. And they've intentionally done this. If you read from their game plan, that's exactly what they've have achieved in doing, but that was their intent from the jump start. So when you see these videos and you immediately hear someone come out, Black Lives Matter, the White House, Hillary, and hijack that narrative to say, aha, we have another racially motivated shooting by a white police officer. That's absolute nonsense. People need to really, really wake up to this, educate themselves. Don't fall for this nonsense.
That's right.
Don't allow this hijack narrative. Every one of these police encounters that we're talking about, they start typically with someone calling into the police department, and quite often it's black on black violence, and they say, hey, I've been robbed, I've been shot, I've been raped, I've been assaulted. And then the dispatcher, it's the dispatcher that puts this information together as fast, as professionally, and as complete as possible. And they send out a radio call to the police officer who's patrolling that area and say, hey, we have burglary in progress, homicide. We have, like, for instance, down in Louisiana, the first thing we see is a video, and it's really only a portion of the incident. But the police officers get a radio call to say, hey, someone just called us and said that they got robbed.
Well, this started in March of 1991, in my mind. It started with the Rodney King arrest on a highway in Southern California. There was a fellow with a video cam, the old style recorder, who was looking at this traffic stop. He did not see what Mr. King had done or the chase that he'd led police on.
Half an hour.
For a half an hour. He did not see King get out of the car and swing at the first guy. He did not see any of the precedent to what happened. And I'm not trying to exonerate that situation or really call a huge amount of attention to the detail of it. But it marked, for me anyway, 25 years ago, it marked a point where we began spying on each other, really, with various kinds of audio-visual devices. Now we've got it in our handheld camera on our cell phone, and maybe that's a good thing to some extent. Maybe it's not. But, you know, one of the things that strikes me about this whole thing that happened in Minneapolis the other day in that suburb, when that man was shot in front of his girlfriend and her daughter at a traffic stop, was that he told the police that he had a concealed carry permit. Well, as it turns out, according to the data I got today, that was not true. He did not have a concealed carry permit, okay? You got to wonder what the guy's thinking about to tell a policeman that, okay? And then reach down to pick, maybe he was going for his identification. I don't know what he was doing, but that police officer had about 2 seconds to make up his mind what to do, didn't he?
Well, that's absolutely right. But again, that's a perfect example of the narrative getting hijacked. My understanding of the situation is that guy may have been involved in some robberies of some convenience store.
That's correct, yes.
He certainly appears to be, and he certainly fit the description, and the vehicle fits the description. So here, now think about this. When you look at that, the first thing is immediately you hear some news person talking about this portion of a video, and this woman comes on and says, my boyfriend, very calmly, my boyfriend was just shot for no reason at all. They tried to stop him for a tail light. He asked him for his identification, and then he just shot him for no reason. Now we back that up, and you think, hey, either the police officers received a dispatch, or they're on patrol, patrolling in their area, and police officers get their brief before they go out on the street and said, hey guys, look, we've been having some robberies in some convenience stores. This is a description of the subject. Here's some photographs of the subject.
Right.
Here's some vehicle descriptions. And these people are on patrol looking. They're listening for radio calls, and they're answering the radio calls, but they're also doing self-initiated policing, and they're watching for bad guys on the street.
Yeah.
So when they see, hey, you know what? Wow, that looks exactly like the vehicle that they're describing. Look at the guy on the side. Look at him. he looks exactly like that.
Yep.
And they'll begin to call to say, hey, we're going to do a felony car stop on this guy.
It used to be
and
called
we're going to
police
take him
work.
into custody.
Yeah, it used to be called doing your job.
It's exactly what it's
We
doing.
called it
your job.
in law school, we called it probable cause.
Terry versus Ohio.
Oh, exactly. I mean, you know your statutes. We have one of our favorite callers on the line. Haven't talked to him in a week or two. George, so glad to hear you, my friend. Don't forget, George is captaining the conservative weenie roast on July 24th. So we've settled on Nathan's hot dogs, haven't we, George?
Yes, we have.
All right, don't want to make a big deal out of that today. We're talking about sober consequences. You have an observation question for Luke Adler, George.
I got two of them real quick, and the first one is, for the last week, we heard about the white officers killing minority people, and come to find out neither one of these officers are white.
Yeah.
You know, so that throws a little damper on them. But something worse than that's going on in Omaha. We have an officer been suspended with pay for putting a factual Facebook post on his Facebook.
I saw that. I did not look into that in depth. What happened there anyway?
Well, he took the Justice Department's numbers and he put them on his Facebook and said, you know, this Black Lives Matter is now lie. Here are the numbers and the facts according to the Justice Department. And a couple of the African-American politicians threw an absolute conniption fit about it.
Yep.
He is on suspension right now. When did stating facts become against the law?
When they hijack the narrative. If you'll think about it, this DOJ is making what you think and or what you say, which I thought was covered under First Amendment, but what you say, if they deem it to be inappropriate, then that, in fact, could get you investigated. That's when it came.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know, exactly. That's exactly
By the way,
right.
this has made the national scene because this is on a briefing paper that I got today. He was demoted, and this was reported by ABC News. So this is not just a local Omaha deal. Somebody bothering to express their First Amendment rights and say the truth apparently is being politically correctly disciplined and penalized for it, George. That's a great point.
And we can't allow that. We cannot tolerate that. People need to get up in arms and call the mayor on down, all the aldermen, everybody, and not tolerate that nonsense.
That's a great
When
story.
when the truth becomes against the law, folks, we have to stand shoulder to shoulder in the mayor and the police chief's office. Thousands people have to show up in mass for this. If the truth becomes against the law, we don't have a hope if we don't stand against it.
And the truth has been illegal in places like the Soviet Union and in China for years, and now it's spreading here to the United States for the past number of years, where the truth is illegal. They don't want you to hear that. And those facts, those figures that you're talking about, they hijack those and try and distort them and say, hey, you know what? These guys are getting shot at this phenomenal rate. That's nonsense.
Yep.
The facts don't bear that out.
They don't bear it out at all. The latest study that's out, and this is a credible study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, this is a nonpartisan deal, says there's absolutely no racial difference in cop shootings, none whatsoever. We found, when we looked into it, Braden did some research yesterday, we found 253 dead African-American men in Chicago so far this year. 253, 3 were in police shootings. Of the 3, 2 were shot by black police officers. This was something that did not come out in Mr. whatever his name's comments were today in Dallas. George, I'm gonna drill down on that story, and thank you for bringing it back to my attention. I saw the news line on it. I'm gonna drill down on that, and George, as always, you have a second comment, I believe you said.
No, that was it about when honesty became illegal.
Yeah. Thanks for speaking the truth, George. I appreciate it. And thanks for the call very much. We've got great patriot citizens in this town, and things tend to rile them up. Can we do our Quentin's thing with Mr. Adler?
And now for today's edition of Keeping Up with the Clintons.
And we do this every day, and we had determined about 6 weeks ago that there were about 125 radio days before the national election on November 8th. Coincidentally, we were able to identify 125 suspicious deaths, sex crimes, stealing of money, AIDS disappearing, all kinds of neat things that the Clintons have figured out ways to do. Most of them relate to sex, money, and power, and the abuse of those three things for Bill and Hillary and their ultimate alternative universe. The one I'm bringing up today, Luke, I'm going to get your comment on this. Speaker Paul Ryan of the House said that he felt that given all the information brought up by James Comey, we've got about 3 minutes here, her use of a private email server, he has attempted to block Hillary Clinton from receiving current intelligence reports once she's formally nominated by Democrats. The Speaker of the House of Representatives does not trust the presumptive Democratic candidate for president with national intelligence. Director of the National Intelligence Agency, James Clapper, told Ryan in a letter obtained yesterday he does not intend to withhold intelligence briefings from any officially nominated eligible candidate. And CNN, to their credit, has done a good job with this story. Ryan made the request after Clinton was severely criticized by the FBI for her email use but not indicted. Nominees for president and vice president receive these briefings by virtue of their status as candidates. They don't require separate security briefings and clearances before those briefings, Clapper wrote to Ryan. Briefings for the candidates will be provided in an even-handed, nonpartisan way. Luke, we've got about 2 minutes. Can you give me your take on should Hillary Clinton get these intelligence briefings or not based on her past performances?
Well, according to what Hillary tells us, and according to what Director Comey tells us, and what he spelled out the other day, both in front of Congress and then previously in front of the news brief that he gave, both of those people have said that she should not. And I'm saying that's from her too. Oh, well, I was careless. I didn't do it right. You're right. He said the same thing. He said she lied. If you listen to his interaction between Trey Gowdy, he said she lied. She lied under oath. Well, both of them, everyone, the left, the entire campaign, they admit, oh, yeah, all right, let's just move on. It's this email fiasco. Yeah, we didn't do it right. However, no big deal. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
And now, so we're going to stand here and tell our intelligence people, hey, let's give her some new stuff to mishandle? Are you kidding me? Do you think her campaign is any? We already saw that her campaign, the DNC, got hacked. If we give her new, important, secret information, these briefings, will she not put it out there? Will she not put that on her servers? Will she not talk about it on her BlackBerry? And the Russians, the Chinese, whoever, North Koreans, will they not get their hands on it? Absolutely.
Luke, thanks again for your great commentary and standing in the void for us. We appreciate your expertise on these matters, and we hope to talk to you. I guess you're out of pocket next week, but we'll talk to you the following week after the during the Democratic National Convention from Philadelphia. So we will look forward to that. The great Luke Hadler with us. David Davenport of the Hoover Institute for townhall.com says the FBI concluded Mrs. Clinton's email practices were extremely careless, not criminal. That's the court of law, but the court of public opinion will speak on this matter at the ballot box November 8th. Let's face it, says Mr. Davenport, there's plenty of room for the electorate to draw a different conclusion about electing a president than the FBI reached on a criminal indictment. Extremely careless but not a crook isn't a great slogan for a campaign bumper sticker, is it? What should voters weigh in on this? 110 emails in her personal account contain classified information, thousands of emails deleted and not made available. It is possible, the FBI said, probable, I would say, that other countries hostile to our interests hacked into her insecure emails. Voters who already say they're concerned about Clinton's integrity are right to consider her lack of care and openness in handling this vital matter of national security. Extraordinarily bad judgment, folks. Thanks for listening. Clint Bellows and Braden Larson will be back tomorrow at 4. Have a great evening.
Clint Bellows, 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. KOTK Omaha, a division of Salem Media Group on the NASDAQ as SALM.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters. Former President George W. Bush joined President Obama in speaking at a memorial service today for 5 Dallas police officers killed last week.
The former president and current Dallas resident paid tribute to the slain officers.
We're proud of the men we mourn and the community that has rallied to honor them and support the wounded.
And Mr. Bush called on Americans to reject the unity of grief and fear.
We want the unity of hope, affection, and high purpose.
He urged Americans to remember their common ideals as a means of bridging divisions. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Black and white religious and community leaders from a broad spectrum of churches and groups have met in Baton Rouge, Louisiana to map out a strategy for making the city more equitable and racially united. The group hopes to turn the publicity from the videotaped fatal shooting of Alton Sterling into a moment of change and action for the city. Meanwhile, in Minnesota, Valerie Castile, whose son Philando was shot